Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and today I want to chat with you guys a little bit about lat and bicep development. And I think that this can extend a lot to the upper back as well, but keep in mind the video will be mostly about working your lats and your biceps. So one of the things that I have to do, as you guys see in this is all from the same workout. Definitely having phases now to where for someone like me, my back grows really easily. I've always had a great mind-muscle connection with it. I find it easy to train, whereas in my arms have always been a bit of a struggle, right? Plus I tore a bicep over 20 years ago. So again, there's a little bit of a fight there. So in my case, what you see me doing is a lot of supine grip rowing and pull-ups. So instead of pull-ups these days, I'm doing more chin-ups, although I've historically liked to do a lot of overhand grip stuff. And I'm going to say up front, if you really want to maximize just your overall back development, it makes sense to do both a vertical and a horizontal pull. And I mean, I'm going to tell you right up front, if you're not strong enough to do pull-ups or chin-ups, that's already what's limiting your back, okay? So what I would say to people, obviously you can do a lat pull down until you're strong enough to do those. I don't like the assist machines. I messed with those early on years ago. I don't think that they create a particularly good or effective strength curve. The way that they flow doesn't feel right. It does not feel like a proper pull-up or chin-up, even though it's reducing the weight some. What I personally would recommend for people, if you were not strong enough to do these, use a reverse band. So you can get inside the rack, and if you take the safety arms, any of the pin type ones, and you run a big thick band across, you can put your knees up on top of that. And I find that that is the best way to perform band assisted pull-ups and chin-ups if you're not strong enough to do them. But I would say that one of the things that you need to be able to do is find a way to do pull-ups or chin-ups. Now, obviously, if biceps are a higher priority than you and you're like me and you struggle with them, doing a chin-up, which is an underhand grip, is probably better. Whereas if that's good, I really like wide grip pull-ups, and a lot of my back development did come from wide grip pull-ups. You know, when people see my back and they see me doing the chins now, I do want to be clear, a whole lot of that lat development comes from a pull-up with a wider grip. And when people say, does it matter? Be like, yeah, it matters. If you go out to a real wide grip near the edges of the rack, so when people have seen me do them in the past, even weighted, that's how I do them. I like the really wide grip. Now, it will feel like it's harder to get the range of motion you want, but that's really irrelevant. A lot of times you will not be able to get your chest anywhere near the bar on them, even if you can do 20 of them. But that doesn't matter because it's the stretch it puts on the lats at the bottom. It really is tough to beat. But failing that, a chin-up like this will still work your lats very, very effectively. Okay, it will work it very effectively. All right. And as far as rowing goes, really, if you want well-rounded back development, you should probably do both. That combination works really, really well. Any sort of pull-up or chin-up combined with any form of row. I prefer barbells and dumbbells. These days, I'm doing mostly barbells so I can do the underhand grip. But I'm a big fan of dumbbell rows too, like a chest-supported dumbbell row, run-arm dumbbell row. I think they work very well. Now, it will bias the training towards the upper back a little more than a chin-up will, or a pull-up. All right, so it will usually work the lats just a little bit less. And I don't mean much, I mean just a little bit less, but it will help build your traps. It will help build your rear delts, all of that more. And you get people who worry so much about shrugs and other stuff, and here's what I would say. Look, if you get strong at rows, you're going to have big, thick traps, okay, period. In my opinion, a row actually does more for traps than even a shrug does, if you have to think about the overall size of the muscle. But the thing to remember is that the reason it's good to combine the two together, even for the lats, people are like, but if the pull-up works the lats just slightly more, shouldn't we just do pull-ups for lats? And it's like, no. And the reason is, just like I would tell people, adding an incline bench to the flat bench works great, because we're hitting a second angle. And when you look at the research that's out there, it pretty consistently shows that working a muscle from two separate angles for the same amount of volume, so let's say you're going to do 5 or 6 total sets or whatever, right, 6 sets. and you split it in half and you do 6 of just one exercise, even if it appears to be a better exercise, versus 3 of one and 3 of another, you usually get slightly more muscle growth. Okay, and what happens is because, yeah, sure, set for set, maybe one exercise might work a certain muscle slightly more effectively. Okay, but over the course of multiple sets, that fatigue starts to accumulate. Number 2, there are going to be muscle fibers that don't get worked completely from a specific angle in any given muscle. And by adding a second angle in, you're going to have a few muscle fibers that do get recruited that maybe get missed on the other movement. And that seems to be the prevailing theory as to why that is. So it's a good idea to do 2 different exercises for any muscle that's particularly lagging for you or muscle you care about that's very important to you. So yes, if you want full back development, you should probably do both. All right, back over to arm stuff. All right, we could talk a lot about forearm training and development. I like hammer curls, and I like curls where we do supinate and pronate the wrist. But at the end of the day, underhand grip curls are generally going to get the job done most effectively if your goal is bicep. And what I find is a lot of the forearm development and radial brachialis and all that, all the other pulling can do a very good job at developing that. So really your curling should mostly be focused on just keeping those palms up, particularly the top when we contract it. But in general, we should be looking for, if you're struggling with bicep development, again, not talking about the genetically blessed guys who can do half reps at the top. You should probably be doing a movement to where you can stretch at the bottom, right? You need to lock the elbows all the way out on curls, okay? So you'll notice when I do those dumbbell curls, what do you see me doing? Locking the elbows and then coming all the way up, okay? So watch as I do them. You'll notice that. What do you see happening here? And I'm using a dumbbell because it's easier to get to the bottom. If you use a barbell or an easy curl bar, you have to lean forward further to get to the bottom, okay? And a lot of people like doing these on a bench for the incline and everything. I personally find that even though I feel it stretches the bicep, I feel the incline really puts more stress on my shoulder than I would like. You know, I get that a lot. People see me curling, well, that looks like a shoulder exercise, but then they'll do an incline curl. I'm like, really? I personally feel delts more on an incline curl than I do any sort of standing curl. Just me personally. But the thing is, notice here, again, trying to get a full range of motion, right? We lock all the way down at the bottom. We come up, and a lot of these reps, I will move the elbow forward just a little bit. Why? That is one of the functions of the bicep. Now, when I'm doing all that other work, I'm not as concerned with it because the pull-up, the chin-ups particularly do that. So I'm not as worried about the shoulder coming forward because that's being worked. But keep in mind, that is one of the functions of the bicep. The biceps do a couple things. They bend the elbow, they can help supinate the wrist, and then they do help with shoulder extension for the first 30 degrees. But only one of the 2 heads is involved with that. So again, after you're doing all this other stuff, you definitely, if you need to maximize bicep development, you do need some sort of underhand grip curl that you lock the elbows out at the bottom. All right, guys, well, that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I'll talk to you guys next time.